You have details of all these stories and more. Do let us know what your thoughts are on the many stories we have for you, from the issues in Ashaiman to the vaccine shortage. And we'll be happy to share with the rest of the world.
Well, tonight we build on a cycle of stories on the childhood vaccine shortage, and we began 2 weeks ago. We will take you to health facilities in some regional capitals where the situation is dire. Let's start from Accra, the national capital, and my colleague Judith Awotritando was at the La and Adabraka polyclinics.
It's a not-so-busy day here at the Adabraka Polyclinic here in Accra. Ideally, this area would be flooded with nursing mothers hoping to get vaccines for their babies. But today, things are a bit different. All we see here are pregnant women who are coming for their shots. Unfortunately, these few nursing mothers would have to wait for the third consecutive month in hope of getting a polio vaccine for their kids. And the prospects for them are scary.
The vaccine is very important, and we have to make sure our babies get all the vaccines, all in the right doses. But she hasn't gotten it for 2 months, so I don't know what might happen. Last month, they actually told me that this month they don't have, the vaccine is finished, so hopefully this month. And today too, we are hearing the same story that there's still a shortage, which is very serious.
At the La Polyclinic, there are more nursing mothers than was the case in Adabraka waiting in the queue. Some have been here a number of times only to be met with a now familiar tale at these facilities: no vaccines for specific ailments. Mother of a 9-month-old, Georgia Enum, has for months now been trooping in and out of the polyclinic for measles and yellow fever vaccine for her child.
I feel scared because anything can happen. As a baby, you have to take all the vaccines. So for me, I will be really scared. I want to plead with the Ghana National Health Service to provide some for us so that they'll use it to take good care of our babies.
Currently, vaccines for polio, measles, yellow fever, rota, and others are in short supply at the polyclinics I visited. Timely vaccination, according to UNICEF, however, is a proven method for saving lives from vaccine-preventable diseases. While Parliament engages the Health Minister on the issue, the Ghana Health Service has hinted the situation would be resolved by the end of March. The next few weeks are indeed crucial for many children. Judith Awotritando, TV3 News, Accra.
And Ibrahim Abubakar visited the Suntrese Government Hospital in Kumasi to gauge the situation in the Ashanti region.
Emmanuel Ba was left puzzled when he was informed about the absence of polio and measles vaccines after he brought his baby girl to the Suntrese Government Hospital for vaccination. The father of one is worried the shortage of the essential vaccine for infants will pose a threat to his child.
I feel bad in the sense that this is the first time that the child should come. If there is anything that it should be given, I think this is the time that it should be given. So if they are saying it's not there, then it means that this time is going to elapse. It's going to elapse that the child will not be catered for by way of the medicine or the vaccine. It's a matter of life and death. We are trying to reduce that mortality rate. So they should try as much as possible to provide the vaccine so that it wouldn't create any problem for any child.
Nurses had to take their time to explain to mothers about the shortage and whether it poses threat to the health of the child or not. This, in a way, brought some sort of relief to frustrated parents.
And the baby
Your baby is expected to take 3 vaccines today, but because we are battling with shortage, we will give her the available ones. We don't know when all the vaccine will be ready, so when you come back the next month and we have some in stock, we give it to her. However, don't worry. The fact that your child has not received all the vaccination today doesn't mean she is ineligible to take it the next month or two.
The Suntresu Government Hospital has 9 out of the 13 childhood vaccines in stock. The unavailable ones are that of polio, measles, tuberculosis, and diarrhea. The Pediatric Society of Ghana has already warned childhood diseases could quickly spread if the vaccines are not made available soon. Timely vaccination of children, according to UNICEF, is a proven method for saving lives from vaccine-preventable diseases. It can also help attain the Sustainable Development Goal 3, which aims to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all by 2030. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Kumasi.
And certainly one of the big stories we are keeping a very close eye on for you is the military brutality that happened earlier today at Ashaiman. We'll be going there in a jiffy after these health-related stories.
But still on the vaccine shortage, the story in Ho, the Volta regional capital, was different. Eric Mawina Edmeta reports.
Vaccines have run out, and all across the country, parents continue to line up at health facilities with their wards, seeking to gain access to these vaccines against the 6 killer diseases. Most notable is the absence of measles and polio vaccines. Here in the Ho municipality, in the Volta regional capital, the situation is no different. At the Ho municipal hospital, the shortage is loudly telling as parents continue to be turned away from access to these vaccines. A number of them who've come here with their week and 2 weeks old babies are being turned away with the explanation that they return when health officials get access to these vaccines.
We were told there are no polio vaccines, so next time he will receive it. I am worried as it is important, but I have no option than to try again on my next visit.
At the Ho Teaching Hospital, the situation was slightly different. Expectant and nursing mothers alike had come in their numbers, but they could get the limited supply of the vaccines only on Thursdays. Operating as a semi-autonomous facility, management of the hospital have been able to procure some of these critical vaccines, but they are being rationed to the many who come here in need for the awards.
This is because of the way they administered their vaccine. You know, normally because of when you open one vial, it has to fit like 10 people, so 10 kits. So they normally have a day. Normally it's Thursdays. When you come on Thursday, the essential vaccines, they only happen on Thursday. Yeah, so today, if you are due for those important vaccines and you come today, definitely you have to come on Thursday.
Eric Mawina Egbeta, TV3, Ho, Volta region.
Still on the polio vaccination in the Western region, the polio and PSV, that is the pneumonia and rotavirus vaccines for diarrhea, are not readily available. Rama Smith looks at how the mothers are coping with the situation.
It's a desperate situation here, as nursing mothers, even those who have newly delivered, are being sent home without the children being given the necessary vaccinations. But that is the reality on the ground now. At some health facilities, if you are fortunate, you get some of the jabs or some of the shots, and then you are sent home. You come and check if there are some available, and then gradually you get all the shots for your child. But in some facilities, there's nothing. So when you deliver, you are sent home. And then you keep on coming until you get what you need for your child. That's the situation here in the Western region.
I delivered just this dawn, but there is no vaccine available. Every mother wants the child to be healthy, so I feel bad. I delivered this Friday, but my baby has not been vaccinated. I feel bad.
Please, I need for my child right now. And they told me that if left with only one, I will get for my child. But it pains me a lot. It hurts me. I need it for my child. My child wants it to be healthy and good. But right now, they are telling me I will get only one. But it's not good for my child too. So please, help us to get the remaining ones.
We went there several times, but they said some of the vaccines are not yet in, so I should wait for a while. When it comes, they will give me a call. I'm worried.
He was supposed to take the injection on last month, that he didn't get it. They say my next visit, and my next visit is today. So I'm going in to check. When I didn't get it, then I'll be a bit worried.
Iroma Smith, TV3 News, Takrady.
In the northern region, designated wards at various hospitals and other health facilities for persons with measles are full up due to the outbreak of the disease in the region. Hundreds of parents whose children are due for vaccination are also left with disappointment after visiting some health facilities to take the vaccines. Christopher Amwako visited some hospitals in the Tamale metropolis and has more in this report.
The northern region, since October 2022, has been battling with measles outbreak due to shortage of the vaccines. On February 7th this year, the Northern Regional Health Directorate, in a statement to health facilities, announced an outbreak of measles in the region. Hundreds of children have so far been affected. A visit to the Tamale Central and West hospitals saw congested wards.
This is one of the wards that patients of measles are admitted. All these beds are filled up with measles patients. In fact, I'm told that this particular ward admits about 30 patients. Now, I've been to other wards and I've also seen some measles patients. So, approximately, we are talking about 60 patients on admission here at the Tamale West hospital suffering from measles. I've also been to the Tamale Teaching Hospital and the Tamale Central Hospital, and same situation prevails in this hospitals. Now, it all boils down to the measles outbreak in the northern region and the lack of measles vaccines for these children to be given their jabs.
Some parents have been sharing their frustrations.
I have run many hospitals for the vaccine but did not get. So after some fruitless weeks, my baby was affected, and here we are on admission. We are really suffering.
We are where we are today because the vaccines are not there. I've been here several times to get the vaccine, but I've always been told the vaccines are not there.
All right, so still on the subject, though, the minority in Parliament is demanding immediate procurement and supply of childhood vaccines for facilities across the country as Ghana inches closer to a state of health emergency.
This is an emergency situation, and the minister and the government, this is a clear failure of government, have looked on 4 clear months ago, and we still don't have vaccines in our system. I think that this is unpardonable because in the planning for vaccines procurement and its deployment, we are supposed to plan ahead. So, for example, we look at the allocation for vaccines for 2024 in 2023. We look at the vaccines allocation for 2023 in 2022. So why have you run short of these vaccines? I think that this is highly unacceptable, especially so when these vaccines are not over-the-counter medications where people can walk in and buy these vaccines. We are not so much interested in big English. We are not so much interested in complex explanation. What we are interested in, and I'm expecting to hear, is that at the end of the day, the minister announces that they have taken delivery of vaccines, and for that matter, tomorrow, they are starting the distribution of those vaccines. That is the only way out. That is the only way out.
Meanwhile, parents will have to wait for a while as the Health Ministry works to procure childhood vaccines, which have been in shortage for the past months. The Minister of Health failed to provide a definite date for the arrival of the much-needed vaccines.
At the Information Ministry today, the Health Minister, Ashaiman, has again failed to give a definite timeline. The nation is to expect the arrival of the childhood vaccines to give some peace of mind to parents.
Ghana's Minister of Health has been making efforts to ensure we secure adequate stocks of vaccines despite this global challenge. We have made all necessary efforts to ensure that despite these challenges, we secure adequate stocks within the next few weeks.
If we could get some dates to few weeks could be months.
I think that the minister has been quite clear with the answers has been given.
A few weeks is not substantive enough to give some assurances to parents and families who need
I think the
vaccines.
response from the minister is that in the next few weeks, all things being equal, we should get supplies now that all of those funds have been made available to the necessary platforms.
The minister has also been explaining what he believes are contributing factors to the situation the nation finds itself in.
The recent shortage in vaccines for measles, as regrettably as it is symptomatic of the steady global decline in measles vaccination since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The paradox of the pandemic is that while vaccines against COVID-19 were developed in record time and developed and deployed in the largest vaccination campaign in history, routine immunization programs were badly disrupted. This was said by the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus.
On speculations that the no vaccine situation the country is facing at the moment is financial, the minister debunked that assertion.
So what we are using politics to drive people away from us. What we are using politics to destroy this. What are we about? Lies or national interests like this?
After all of this, it remains imperative for parents to make their babies available for the vaccinations when the vaccines arrive in the country. For TV3 News, Noble Crosby Annan.
Still watching News 360. Let's go to the big story we are looking at for you this evening, having to do with development in Ashaiman, where scores of male residents of Taifa, a suburb of Ashaiman, picked up by military personnel in a Tuesday dawn swoop, are yet to return to their families. Some personnel from the military stormed the neighborhood in what is believed to be an investigation into circumstances that led to the killing of a soldier. The community is in a self-imposed curfew since the invasion that has left the country in shock. Godwin Asedeba reports.
This military personnel in the wee hours of Tuesday morning brutalized civilians of Taifa, a suburb of Ashaiman, over the alleged murder of a 21-year-old soldier, Sheriff Imoro. Voices shouting in severe pain. Men and women in uniform who have sworn to protect the sovereignty of the Republic and its citizens were the very people inflicting unwarranted pain on unsuspecting citizens. 42-year-old Emmanuel Ameplenu is one of them. Seated in front of his home, wrapped with a cloth to cover up his painful bruises, Emmanuel is in discomfort.
I feel opposite or force done now. I had Omba, a dan, now you so we no say, no one so pushes now or jay. Before me, who no was say, we no trap down. And I me pie, no was you, me bra, no dimachisa before me when and uncle for Edina Hasina. I feel almost at a boo yes.
The military personnel are alleged to have forcefully broken into all rooms of Emmanuel's compound and dragged all the males who lived there and beat them to pulp. Some of them have been taken away by the soldiers. Amedeka believe just returned from the hospital after he says one of the soldiers used a gun to hit his head. According to belief, he was freed because of blood oozing from his scalp uncontrollably.
Did they knock the gate? We know they open.
where they first open the gate, before I see where they say make I can't line that for where they be between. Where they carry us go the top there. Where they go take the gun knock my head, where the blood they come out, where they left me. So the people where they carry for the area, they carry them go where they no catch me. So they say I go hospital.
He said his senior brother has been taken away by the soldiers, including male tenants in this house. 19-year-old Courage Nyanato was asleep during Tuesday's dawn rains when the soldiers broke into his home.
I was just like, am I going to die? Because the beatings, they were using all sorts of things, wire, pipe holes, like all sorts of wood, like different things.
These huge sticks, you can tell, can be very hurting if it is used on a human body, but these military personnel use this on them, either innocent or not. They were all being beaten. This does not just happen here. If you walk around the vicinity here in Ashaiman, you can clearly tell that a number of people are still living in fear and panic. As of the time I got here, whilst we're trying to speak to some people, people were still taking to their heels because anytime they hear of any movement sort of, it makes them feel as though it is the military that is coming towards them. These plastic bottles you can see right here, I have been told by some of the residents that the military gave them water from these gutters. So they open up this plastic, get the water from the gutters, and then give it to people who were either going to work or walking around to drink, whilst they lashed them with those huge sticks that you saw earlier.
The soldiers were long gone, but the traumatized residents are still visibly shaken by the events and are still in shock. At the home of 21-year-old Sheriff Imoro, the soldier who was allegedly killed on Saturday, which led to this turmoil, the family is in agony. Sheriff's mother, Efiachra, could not hold back her tears as she tells me more about her firstborn's lifestyle prior to the unfortunate news. She said her son called in sick a few days ago from Sunyai, where he's stationed.
But that was free Hobano, or Frame so Oba, but where the one Fremington mean that's what say, or Bashama. In the end, that's one of my nip mountains to say, Mebano, Obe we say, Nanka Oyali or Honoka and Kayalen Kunu, and Nukra, you see, we are na. I'm a come about a man, and I know a thing, I know a deal.
The entire family is in distress, but hopes they will get justice. At the police district headquarters in Ashaiman, preparations were underway for an autopsy to be conducted at the 37 military hospital. Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, who confirmed the brutalization, called on Parliament to have an interest in the matter.
You cannot take anybody's life into your own hands. It is never done. And whoever has done that, I want the police and then the military to go after that person, arrest the person, and let the person face the full rigors of the law. But that is not to say that the military should take the law into their own hands by invading the whole community, the whole Ashaiman constituency, molesting people, molesting residents of the community, preventing them from going about their daily activity. It is not done. That is human rights abuse.
The Tuesday dawn brutalization of the residents of Taifa is but a constant occurrence that is a bloat on the military. The military hierarchy has been cited often as complacent in these occurrences, as rogue officers seemed to receive nothing, a slap on the back of their palm. Godwin Asidiba, TV3 News, Ashaiman.
Very disturbing report there put together by Godwin. Joining me in studio now is Adib Sani, who is a security expert and Chief Executive Officer of Jatike Center for Human Security. A very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us in studio. It's been almost 12 hours and over. We are yet to hear from the Military High Command or even the Ghana Police Service or even government for that matter about these inhumane treatment that we've seen in this video. What are your immediate thoughts on that?
Well, it is appalling. It is horrendous. I'm absolutely gobsmacked by this wanton display of lawlessness that makes me sometimes feel as if we are in the medieval era. This action is retrogressive. It is inconsistent with our democratic values. It is never the duty of the military to go arrest so-called perpetrators of a lynching. In as much as, without mincing words, I categorically detest and condemn the killing of this, military officer, Sharif, I also condemn the actions of these officers. And it is becoming one too many, Martin. We all know what happened in Wa because so-called soldiers' phone was stolen. They decided to hold the whole, neighborhood to ransom, Ejura and other places. It is worrying. But what I am still wondering is whether this was sanctioned from the top. Because when you take a closer look at the galvanization of human resource and military hardware, including, by the way, armored personnel carriers and even a chopper, it makes me wonder whether indeed there's no top-level complicity in what has happened. For once, it looked like Ghana was at war. Yeah. It looked like a major counter-terrorism operation. And it makes me wonder who in his right senses would order such a thing to happen in the first place.
Let's look at the bit about, you mentioned we've had a number of instances where we actually chronicled similar military brutalities on civilians, irrespective of what may have happened. But is there an end in sight? Do you see an end in sight, or the situation is clearly getting out of hand and it's been a bit consistent in that regard?
Well, Godwin Asediba said something at the end of his report that is it going to be another slap on the wrist or at the back of the palm? Because that is the status quo. I don't know whether you've taken the trouble to review the punishment regime meted out against the officers who were embroiled in the war debacle. It looked laughable. And this is giving a lot of these adrenaline-filled, youthful, exuberant soldiers that false sense of invincibility. It makes them think that the uniform gives them immunity and so they can do as they wish. So until we start applying the law the way it should. Because, Martin, if I slap you now, what is it? It's an assault. It's criminal. But why do we make it look normal for a law enforcement officer or a security officer to slap someone, then nothing happens? I mean, this is unacceptable, and it really doesn't, portray a good image about the country. And if care is not taken, it degrades the relationship between the civilian population on one hand and the military on the other.
Right, and in wrapping up this conversation, clearly there is the tendency of a reprisal attack, although many people are, in fact, we all wish that it doesn't happen. What do you expect to see as a security consultant? And from the very top, because you mentioned issues of complicity, there's a likelihood that for the helicopter, for the military vehicles to be moved, it means people at the very top sanctioned it. Where do we go from here? How do you want to see this play out?
Accountability, 1. Accountability, 2. Accountability, 3. We have to investigate the matter in a holistic, transparent manner, and whoever is found culpable should be dealt with, to reassure the population that, hey, wake up. We are not in a banana republic. We are not a jungle republic. We are in a country that is governed by the rule of law. And I would also expect that a government delegation goes to that area to give some reassurances. So at least, hopefully, we can restore some level of public trust and confidence in the security services.
All right, thank you very much, Adib Sani, security consultant and CEO of Jatike Security Services. Clearly, many of you who have followed this story have condemned it, irrespective of who the perpetrator is, and we hope that some answers will be received in due time. Meanwhile, on Ghana Tonight at 10 p.m. with Alfred Okanse, the Deputy Defense Minister will be giving some answers to these very pressing questions that we've also been seeking answers to. You're still watching News360 on TV3. Let's go to Bortianor now, where a family in that area this morning mourning the death of 2 children after this dawn's torrential rains. The building housing the 2 children and their mother collapsed during the downpour. Christian Yali reports.
That is Elizabeth Amwako, mother of the 2 children who perished in Tuesday's flood. She's totally broken, traumatized, and left in a state of utter shock, struggling to come to terms with how she lost her 2 children, aged 8 and 12. It was around 3 a.m. on Tuesday when torrential rains collapsed this mud structure housing them. All effort to move the 2 children to safety failed as the gushing floodwaters carried the 2 children away.
We all acted swiftly when the building collapsed. We tried to save the children, but our efforts were too late.
This is not the first time floods have claimed lives in the area. For the father, Ishmael Achu Sevoji, the death of his 2 children have taken away his happiness.
I have nothing to say. I only wish God could bring back my son, Morris.
This fence wall, as you see in your shot, was the one that was collapsed by the floodwater. As you see here, it struck the back of this building, which was housing the mother and the 3 children. Almost everything they have in this room have been destroyed, and none of them can be retrieved as of now. The gushing floodwaters swept the 3 children and the mother this way, all the way, because the water filled almost every part of this area. This is the other side of the building. The entire structure is beyond repairs. Resident of Babadogo in Bortianor, in the Bortianor English Yamanfro constituency, cannot bury their emotions. They are calling on NADMO and individuals for urgent help for the family.
Right now, we don't know where the family is. So we appeal to all
Christian Yali, TV3 News, Bortianor.
This is heartbreaking. My heart goes out to the family. We have more news coming up shortly. Don't go away. Della Michelle is here for the latest in the world of business, and Joe Jackson has been speaking. What has he been saying?
Indeed, he has been looking at the Treasury bills. There are some reports that we've been hearing with regard to government rejecting the bids, if that was what really happened on the market, with some percentage being recorded around 35. But we have the latest for our viewers. Let's begin with the head of business development at Delax Finance, Joe Jackson, who has hailed government's decision not to pay the 37% interest rate demand by investors during its Treasury bill auction on Friday. Government was seeking to raise in excess of 2.7 billion cedis from the T-bills to refinance maturing bills worth 2.55 billion Ghana cedis, but described the yield as overly expensive. Speaking to 3 Business, Joe Jackson, who has often lamented the high interest rate regime, said the decision was appropriate.
Right. If our debt at an average of 19% was unsustainable, what did you think it would be when the rate is in excess of 35%? And so it is definitely a step in the right direction. And I'm actually glad that
just maybe the powers that control the economy have come to the same realization we did some weeks ago to say this is unsustainable and it needs to be fixed. It is good for the economy, it is good for the public purse, and I actually believe that the rate should come down even more.
Let's still stay on the issue of Treasury bills as Managing Director of Omni Basic, Daniel Isiedu, is optimistic the high interest rate on Treasury bills would soon even out. According to him, despite the current economic challenges facing the country, commercial bank lending to government remains one of the most attractive on the market. He was speaking in an interview with 3 Business, and the former Zenith Bank MD said, although attractive, it is only a temporary situation.
We think that over time the rates are going to come down, and they are going to come down pretty fast very soon. And so we believe that it's a win the government is going to use to control the rate. But I'm saying that even if rates are high, and we know that it is risky, if you don't invest in government bills and bonds, what outlets and avenues do you have? Let's put it this way. If we say we are not lending to the private sector, and if we say we are also not lending to government, then what are we doing the deposit we hold? Because we are paying, there's a cost attached to those deposits. Okay, so we don't have a choice. And whether we like it or not, government will still be attractive in terms of lending. I mean, lending to government that we think is risky is sometimes much better than lending to the private sector that is risky. At least government will still negotiate with you. Government will still talk to you. Government will still bring you a proposal. Most of the time, private sector, when they cannot pay, and you can't even find them. So it's risky, but we'll continue.
Away from that, civil society organizations have described as absurd the attempt by Aker Energy to exclude itself from AGM Petroleum following the latter's decision to relinquish its 80% stake in the tunnel block for free. The development follows months of agitation by CSOs, including energy think tank ASEP, opposing government's attempt to acquire the block at a whopping $700 million. Reacting to a statement by AGM, the executive director of ASEP, Ben Boache, said the attempt by the 2 entities to claim independence is simply unrealistic.
As far as civil society is concerned, and the analysis of the issues that have happened over the past 18 months is concerned, we cannot separate AGM from Aker Energy. Because if you look at the valuation and the number that was thrown at us at 1.3 billion for the acquisition of the interest in AGM and Aker in 2021, they did not separate the 2 companies. They did a composite valuation of the assets and threw a number at us. So even as we speak, we do not know how much of the 1.3 billion would have gone to AGM and how much would have gone to Aker Energy. So it is not our business to separate them in this regard. We appreciate that they may be separate entities, but as far as analyzing the savings to Ghana and analyzing the fact that we had fundamental disagreement on the structure and the value that had been placed on.
And that's all the business news we have for you this evening. Log on to 3news.com for more business news. My name is Della Michelle. Sports news is after this break. Stay with us.